After the tragic death of her parents, young Fatma was brought to live with her aunt Salma. Salma had two daughters, Tasha and Sasha, who were known for their sharp tongues and entitled attitudes. At first, Fatma hoped her aunt's home would be a refuge, a place where she could find comfort after her loss. But soon, she realized she was far from safe. Fatma's beauty, delicate features, and soft demeanor were a stark contrast to her cousins. Her radiant skin and thick, long locks made her stand out, and soon, jealousy began to brew in Aunt Salma's heart. The sight of Fatma, who resembled her late mother, brought unwelcome memories to Salma. Tasha and Sasha fed off their mother's resentment, their envy turning to cruelty. Every morning, while Tasha and Sasha slept under their warm blankets, Fatma was forced to wake up before dawn. Her aunt would stand by her door, tapping her foot impatiently, as she ordered her to fetch water from the far-off river. Fatma carried the heaviest pots on her head, walking through the dark, cold paths while her cousins stayed home. "Be quick about it," Aunt Salma would bark, "you need to make breakfast when you return." Once back, Fatma was expected to cook for the entire household, her small hands splitting firewood, lighting the fire, and preparing meals while the other girls lounged in the shade. After breakfast, Tasha and Sasha would flaunt themselves in their colorful dresses, admiring their reflections in a mirror. But no matter how much they dressed up, they could never match Fatma's natural grace. Their jealousy grew deeper each time they saw her. To further break her spirit, Aunt Salma ordered Fatma to cut her hair. Her long, thick locks were a source of beauty, and Salma could not bear the thought of Fatma outshining her daughters. As the dull scissors hacked through her hair, Fatma's tears flowed silently, but she never complained. She learned to endure, knowing deep inside that she was worth more than the insults hurled at her. At the farm, the torment continued. Fatma was made to work the fields alone, digging and planting under the scorching sun. The weight of it all became a daily burden, yet Fatma grew stronger, both in body and spirit. Her cousins would sit by the shade, snickering as they watched her toil, throwing insults her way. "Look at her, dirty and ugly," Sasha mocked. "No one will ever look at her now." But Fatma's inner strength was something they could never touch. She grew resilient, her beauty shining from within despite their efforts to dim it. Then, something changed. One day, as Fatma was returning from the river with her usual heavy pots of water, she encountered an old woman sitting by the roadside. Her eyes twinkled with wisdom, and she smiled gently at Fatma. "Child, why do you carry such a heavy load alone?" the old woman asked. Fatma explained her situation, her voice steady yet filled with sadness. The woman listened carefully and then, with a kind gaze, said, "Do not despair. Sometimes the brightest jewels are hidden in the darkest places. Your time will come." Fatma, unsure of what the woman meant, thanked her and continued home. But from that day, something remarkable began to happen. No matter how much her aunt and cousins tried to tear her down, they couldn't suppress the growing admiration for Fatma within the village. Neighbors began noticing how tirelessly she worked and how her inner beauty shone despite her worn clothes and short hair. Soon, word of Fatma's kindness, resilience, and hidden beauty reached the ears of an important visitor, the young village chief, a man of great wisdom and wealth. Intrigued by what he had heard, he came to Salma's home one afternoon to observe for himself. Salma, Tasha, and Sasha scrambled to impress him, draping themselves in their finest clothes and jewelry. But the chief's eyes were drawn to Fatma, even with her short hair and simple attire. He saw beyond the surface and recognized the strength and grace she carried within. To the astonishment of her aunt and cousins, the chief chose Fatma to be his wife. In one swift moment, the tables turned. Fatma's years of suffering had only polished her into a rare gem, and the chief saw the beauty they had tried to hide. As the chief's bride, Fatma's life transformed. She was no longer the servant but the cherished one, adored by the villagers and honored for her strength and perseverance. Aunt Salma and her daughters were left to face the consequences of their cruelty, now scorned by the village for the way they had treated her. In the end, Fatma's beauty, which they had tried to erase, became her greatest triumph. Hidden no more, she was the jewel that had always shone, even in the darkest of places.